Welcome to VidZet. I'm Dr. Ted Noel. Today's broadcast is a special that has come as a result of yesterday's shooting of Majority Whip Steve Scalise and others in Virginia. The perpetrator was a hard lefty who bought into all of the rhetoric about killing Republicans. This is horrible. The only thing we should be thankful for in this is that when he had a powerful rifle and a free field of fire, he only seriously injured one person. That's a great blessing in that he could have killed everybody there if he'd been a good shot. Now, in the last two videos, I pointed out how the hard left is psychotic. They have a severe defect in reality testing that says anytime they are opposed, they are now properly justified in using lethal force against the one opposing them because they regard the mere verbal opposition as a physical threat to their lives. I talked about this in the Kathy Griffin video, and then I talked about how do we talk to those who are on that plane, and the answer is you probably can't. But what we can do is take away the subsidy for those who are perhaps redeemable. But this particular event shows that even more so than a professor wielding a bicycle lock on a chain to hurt someone, this kind of vile incitement is clearly not protected speech. And every state actually calls it a psychosis that is worthy of incarceration for a period of time for psychiatric evaluation. In California, it's called a 5150, where someone who is a danger to themselves or to others can be involuntarily held for 3 days for evaluation. And if it is further determined that they remain a danger to others, you lock them up until they're not. In Florida, it's called the Baker Act. Every other state has something similar. The problem is it's hard to get all of these people locked up. And frankly, how do you separate them? There's really a better way, I think, for us to go about this. Now, when we look at free speech, the left in particular takes free speech as absolutely sacred. They can say anything. It does not matter what they say. It's okay. But in 1919, the Supreme Court held in a case called Schenck versus United States that it was not protected speech to falsely yell fire in a crowded theater. Notice the word falsely. And there have been a number of occasions where people have made that kind of a statement and people have died as they trample each other trying to get away from the announced threat. That's not protected speech. In 1969, in Brandenburg versus Ohio, the Supreme Court clarified this by saying that it is okay to ban speech that incites immediate lawless action. So when we have someone like Jesse Benn at the Huffington Post who says, well, one shooter's not enough. In order to be effective, you have to have an organized batch of shooters. That can be taken as inciting immediate lawless action and is not protected speech. However, when you have Looney Tunes Maxine Waters constantly screaming that we need to impeach Donald Trump, that is protected speech because she's calling for what would be a lawful action. The Constitution provides for impeachment as a way of removing a president. So her speech is protected, but Jesse Benn's is not. So the question now is, what can we do? It would be really nice to say we're going to ban Democrats. Can't do that. What we have to do is something that is consistent with our principles of proper engagement and with the law. And what we would do to start with is to have the Attorney General make a public proclamation that speech calling for harm to any person or group of persons is not protected. That's perfectly consistent with Brandenburg. The next step is to begin prosecuting the voices of hate, that is, the leading voices of hate, for conspiracy and incitement to deprive others of their civil rights. Remember that deprivation of civil rights is how the feds got involved in the Rodney King case. They claimed that the cops were conspiring to deprive Rodney King of his civil rights, and they ultimately sent the cops to jail on that count. When we talk about what's called First Amendment jurisprudence, that is, how does the court look at the First Amendment, we have a three-pronged test. The first says, does the restriction serve a compelling government interest? And there is absolutely a compelling government interest that we protect public safety. And when people are calling on rioting, calling on killing people, that is destroying public safety. It's a compelling government interest. Second, it must be a narrowly tailored action. So, if we have a network commentator who starts calling for people to kill Republicans, it would not be narrowly tailored for the government to pull that network's license. It would be narrowly tailored to prosecute that commentator for his speech. And this must be done in the least restrictive means. Like I said with the network, you have to go specifically in the least restrictive way. I can't just ban political speech. I have to say that when you make political speech that is specifically designed to incite, that's banned. So, and remember, the incitement has to be to illegal action, not to legal action. Calling for people to resist at the polls, calling for people to write their congressman, that's protected speech. We have to remember that we are in a civil war. When one side is using literal physical weapons against the other, there's nothing else you can call it. It's a war. And we have to fight back. But we should recognize that our principles require that we use peaceful weapons at our disposal whenever possible. That means we use the police and the courts. We don't go out with guns in the street to kill lefty protesters. We call on the police to do the job. Let them be arrested. If they resist, you use whatever force is necessary. But the lefties are the ones who started it. When speech crosses the line into incitement to commit illegal acts, it's time to put those evil people in jail. And remember, the word evil has a direct meaning here. The law is clear. It's time for us to start enforcing the law. I'm Dr. Ted Noel. Thanks for watching.